Get the coolest mesh online at mesh.alfred.vip.
Hello everybody, I'm Alfred and you're listening to Alfred's daily Q&A Livestream podcast. Today, is an interesting day. Yesterday I got, while scrolling on X, formerly Twitter, I saw something that really upset me, and it's a post by Peter Obi. It shows how unfortunate the political situation is in Nigeria, and the way Nigeria is going is heading for another civil war. Nigeria is heading for another civil war. Peter Obi's brother's building, one of the businesses that he owned, that a property that Peter Obi's brother's business owned was demolished for no reason, just for politics. This was a way of getting at Peter Obi, and we see these kinds of things, like, for example, the ruling political party destroying a legendary building of an opposing political party. They destroyed the building headquarters of the opposing political party. A lot of lawlessness and a lot of nonsense is going on, and the whole world is watching. And the funny thing is that these politicians are going about and acting like if they are doing something for Nigeria. I wonder how some of these Nigerian politicians can actually hold their shoulders up when they go to the airports or they travel and meet dignitaries of other countries. When they go and give speeches in other countries about how they are all for Africa, they want to see Africa improve and all of that. They don't know that all these other leaders are looking. They are not fools. They are not just looking and taking at face value the things that are coming out of other politicians' mouth, because politicians know better more than anybody else how they lie. So they are looking at what is happening on ground. APC, Wiki destroyed the headquarters of PDP in Abuja, demolished it, and said that they are owing back taxes on land, and this whole situation, that even though you own property, you are still paying property tax, which means that nobody owns land. And it brings us to, it makes me think of something that Grant Cardone said, and because Grant Cardone is, if you remember the days of Rich Dad Poor Dad, started saying things like, Robert Kiyosaki back in the day, in the 90s, would say things like, your house is not an asset. Because many people believe it was an asset. And Robert Kiyosaki explained that it's only an asset to the bank. Because you get a mortgage on it, it's on the books, it's an asset to the bank. It brings money into the bank's accounts. Anything that brings money towards you is an asset. Anything you own that channels money into you is an asset. If you own a supermarket, it's an asset. There are people who buy liabilities and there are people who buy assets. They can be somebody who, they want to buy a Tesla, they want to buy Gucci and Prada, they want to buy luxury goods, they want to buy this raining cow, this jewelry and all of that. But another person is looking at it the other way. Instead of going to the store to buy the products in the store, they are starting their own store, or they are going to buy the mall. And this is why, if you are in this current day and you don't own a company and you don't know how to operate through a company, I'm talking about living in such a way that it is not you living, but you are living through an entity, a business entity. If you have not done that, you have not started, and you do not understand business and how the world functions, It is just like people who complain and say that the rich don't pay taxes and the rich pay little taxes. When it comes to income tax, perhaps, but that's the way it has to be for the world to function. You understand? The way the world is, it is very important that the government makes real money from the fake money they issue out. Because understand, ever since the drop of the gold standard, all money on paper is fake. Because the value is not backed by gold, it's not backed by something of substance. It is just printed indiscriminately by the government and issued out. So the value can rise and drop and all of that sporadically based on how the Federal Reserve pumps money into the economy or withdraws money from the economy. However, in all this activity, the real money, as I've always said, is value. Everything is money. So the real money is the commerce that the people engage in. So when the people engage in commerce and they exchange the value of their commerce for paper money, that is where real money and fake money that the government prints get linked. Because now the real money, which is the real commerce, the real activities, the real blood, sweat and tears of the people, the real things that the people are buying and selling, the people are now transforming it into a unit of measurement to store that wealth in paper money, or to use that paper money as a medium of exchange. So that money that the government prefers, whether it exists as paper money or digital numbers that the government is issuing out. Because in the future, there will be no paper money. And there are a lot of people that are trying to ensure that that is so. It's all going to be digital. And of course, we know about the mark of the beast and how that is going to play out. We already have a situation where we are making money with cards and NFCs, and with NFT, which is different from NFTs. What I'm talking about is the technology in your phone that makes it possible for you to tap something and pay. I believe it's also in some Apple Watches. You can tap something and pay. That technology now, when it's embedded under your skin, the government can track here and all of that, and they say it's for all kinds of reasons. Also, if your stress level, the government is monitoring your stress level. So if someone tries to rape somebody or if someone tries to attack someone, the police is notified automatically. So everybody's linked to a central computer, and that computer will be the beast. It will be a new level of the Internet of Things that connects everything, and it will be free. It will be 100% free. So that's where the future is going. Free internet connection, but these are all the things that will come with it. Where the human being itself is connected to it. And for you to function in society, you have to be connected to it. For you to open doors, for you, no need for passcodes and passports and passwords. You just use that microchip, like the mark of the beast, under your skin, and be opening all these things. So you will not be able to buy or sell and all of that. So that being said, remember what I said about the real activities that give value to the money that the government prints. It's the commerce that the people engage in, the buying and selling, the trading of their blood, sweat and tears. So that has to be transformed into paper money or digital money, whatever money that the government issues. That is where that value comes from. It's not really the government itself that brings value. So you have to understand that about economies. And when you read my book, Money Grows on Trees, you can download it for free at books.alfred.vip. You'll see such things there, and you would understand that reality. Now, that being said, we are living in a world and a time where in Nigeria, and it's all kinds of crazy things are happening. Things that should not be. Like what APC and Wike did with the PDP building. Now we see the same thing happening with Peter Obi. And this is testing the waters. Do we go for Peter Obi? Do we come for him later? But now this is like a warning shot, and they are trying to see people's engagements and also test the popularity and the love that people may have for Peter Obi. Keep in mind that if this Peter Obi thing falls through, it will be made clear that Igbos are not wanted in Nigeria. It will be made clear that Igbos are not a part of Nigeria. Even though they don't want Igbos to leave and start their own country, they don't want Igbos to participate in the already existing country, so called Nigeria. So Igbos are second-class citizens, and it will prove that certain doors are not open for Igbos. Like the whole Nnamdi Kanu situation. It's because he's Igbo. If Nnamdi Kanu was not Igbo, none of this would have happened. He would have been free a long time ago. But the injustice against Nnamdi Kanu is because he's Igbo. And everybody sees it and everybody knows it. Now they are doing this same thing to Peter Obi. It's crazy. Let me just read the tweets. And there are also pictures. You can go to Peter Obi's Twitter page, and you will see the pictures of the demolition that they demolished his brother's property for no reason. No demolition order from any courts, no nothing. It wasn't legally done. No justification, no reason. And that's the same thing with the PDP building. If you say they are owing taxes, and that is the issue, why demolish the building? Tell them to pay, and they will pay. There are politicians that have money. But also, let me touch on this. This craziness of the land has to be taxed. It does not work in Africa, and it should not be done in Nigeria. I know it is the thing that have been done in America and other places where you are still paying property tax, but now creates a situation where nobody really owns property. If you buy land, what did you buy? Because you still have to pay property tax on the land that you quote unquote own, so you don't own it because you are still paying tax on it. And if you stop paying tax, the government will come and seize it from you. So you are basically renting it. So everybody is a renter. And that creates a situation where there's no store of wealth in land anymore. And of course, when it comes to the currency of Nigeria, it's nonsense. So where will people have to store their wealth? Outside Nigeria or in crypto or something else? So what does that do to the Nigerian economy, and what does that do when it comes to investors? If you had the opportunity, and this is something I've said, all the investment opportunities are in competition with other investment opportunities. If you have the opportunity to invest in Nigeria versus Dubai, why will you pick Nigeria? And understand that international investors have access to invest everywhere. They have access to invest in Dubai. They have access to invest in America. They have access to invest in London. They have access to invest in China. They have access to invest everywhere. So they have access to invest in South Africa and other much safer places to invest. Why would they now invest in Nigeria, where there is so much insecurity, kidnapping people left and right? Government can come and destroy your building. You will get all the permits and all the legal things. A new government regime will come and destroy it and say that it is illegal structure. It happens time and time and time and time again. That is business that is somebody's blood, sweat, and tears. Or a property that somebody has called a home. Another government will just come and say it is illegal structure. Destroy it. Destroy the whole thing. And, this is crazy. So what is the point of buying land or buying property in Nigeria? And someone who has access, even if they are in Nigeria, they have access to, as long as they have access to buy land outside Nigeria, why would they buy land in Nigeria? When any land you buy in Nigeria is basically not yours, you are renting it. You know, thanks to this law, it wasn't always like this. So now, even the mama and papa in the village, and this is also, you have to understand what is happening, because these are evil politicians that are following certain colonialists that they are pawns of and they are being paid by. Because understand, like I've talked about this insecurity issue in the north. There are a lot of resources in the north. There is gold in the north that have not even begun. They have not even begun to drill for it. There's oil in the north. There are other natural resources, the lithium, cobalt, a lot of these things, the thing that is useful. We are moving into a world of solar energy. The material, the most essential ingredient of a solar battery, lithium, is in the north, under the soil. So all these people that you are seeing in videos in Africa and in northern Nigeria that are poor, all these people that have owned land that, you know, they are living in one hut or whatever somewhere in northern Nigeria, they are poor. Underneath that ground, that is their ancestral land that they owned and they have always owned, underneath that ground is gold that they don't know. Underneath that ground is lithium. Understand something, that before John D. Rockefeller and the rest found out the use for oil, when people were seeing oil when they dug, imagine how for you to be digging for a common water well and for you to see oil, imagine how much oil is under there. But in previous days, before the Industrial Revolution, before cars existed, before electricity existed, and there were electric lamps and all of this, you know, before there were aeroplanes and all of that, when people dig and see oil, they say, the land is cursed. The gods have cursed that land. This is around the world. You know, people thought, you know, this is bad land, this is terrible land. Look at the water is black. Why is the water so black and murky when you dig? We're digging for well, and yet we saw this gooey substance, crude oil. And they would abandon that land. They will leave it for sheep. You know, if nobody will agree to buy it, they will try to scam people into buying it. And when if someone buys it, they say, they have ripped me off. Look at the land they sold me. It has this smoky green black stuff. I have no, and they will look for better land elsewhere. But that was crude oil, something very valuable. But they didn't know it. In the same way, in the north, all these people that we are seeing that are poor, they own land. The land that they are on has materials, even the ones that do not have oil. It has lithium that is used for solar batteries. Imagine how much Elon Musk will pay for that. These are things that you can mine and mine like sand. Imagine having something that a handful of it is worth 10,000 naira or 20,000 naira, just a handful. But they have it like sand under the ground, miles and miles and miles of it, and somebody is living at the top of it in poverty because they don't know, but the politicians know. So that is one of the motivating reasons for all this insecurity and why it won't stop, because they are driving people out of their land that they know is valuable. So these people are going to live lives of poverty. Then they will end up displaced. Then a new person who knows truly the value of that land is going to get that land. This is a land grab. And also, this whole introduction of continuously taxing people's land, even though you have owned the land for centuries, your parents owned it, their parents owned it. As a matter of fact, before 1960, you people owned that land. Now the government is saying pay tax on it, otherwise you lose it. The government knows the value of what is under that land, and in some cases the land itself. So it's a land grab, and the only people that are benefiting from it are the globalists who are taxing Nigeria, who Nigeria are living in debt to, and they are making deals to make sure that Nigeria keeps borrowing paper money that is worthless from them. Nigeria keeps borrowing money that they print from them for Nigerians to live. Say, oh, you need this loan for Nigeria to exist. You need this loan, and they keep giving loan. So all the activities and all the government is existing to drain up money from the people and send it abroad to pay these globalists. Then also the one they steal, they also send abroad and keep in bank accounts abroad, which helps the economy that bank is in abroad. It makes the foreign banks richer. So that is why this is not going to stop. And it's crazy. Now, back to the Peter Obi thing. It is terrible what has been done. Extremely terrible. It means that, with this thing going on, a lot of Igbos will take it as it means what it means. And there are sadly, a lot of Yoruba people on Twitter that are celebrating it. And there's a lot of anti-Igbo sentiments in Lagos. A lot of it. So how can one Nigeria exist? Because the reality of the matter is that a lot of people, and I'm talking about non-Igbos, that we criticize and insult Igbos for wanting to break away. They themselves, they don't want anybody but their own tribe to live around them, or to live in their states and all that. There have been a lot of persecution and destruction of Igbo-owned property in Lagos. When an Igbo man owns property, he runs into trouble. And also this, for now, it creates a situation where I'll advise people to start, for now, and it brings what I said before back into play. When I say that if you don't own a company and you don't know how to live through a company, you have not started. So when you live a life where nothing is in your name, but things are in your company's name, and it also helps with inheritance, if you pass on, so it's not a matter of your people are fighting for property. You know that you own this company, and this company, these shares, everything you own is owned by the companies. And then this shares goes to this person, this shares goes to this person, this shares goes to this person. So nothing has to be destroyed, nothing has to be changed, and you pass on what you own. And look at somebody like Dangote. He owns his his private company, the Dangote Group Limited, which owns shares in the Dangote Cement, which is publicly traded, Dangote Sugar, which is publicly traded, and a lot of the other companies. So all these things, you can cleverly do it. I don't know to what extent he lives invisible, but you can live in such a way where there's nothing in your there's little or nothing under your name, or there's no record for you, because that's also a way for people to track you. Your property is not in your name, this and that is in the name of a company. So basically, and when you live that way, you'll be a rich person whose your own taxes will be tiny, because you are living off the company's expenses. And it goes back to what they say about rich people paying little tax. Rich people who live like this, who understand how to live through companies, their tax is small. But if there are companies that pay corporate tax, and when you are clever with it, you can only get richer. And when you own a trust and a fund, you only get richer. So all these things are said in this way. When it comes to Nigeria, we need to think of a way to change Nigeria quick, or basically run away from Nigeria. And the way things are going with the treatment of Igbos, it's sad. It's sending a very wrong message, that Igbos are not wanted, and it will lead to several types of civil wars. Because the Igbos are not happy, the Yorubas are not happy, the Northerners are not happy. Nobody's happy, and the government is still doing even more nonsense. When you think that they have done too much nonsense and that there's no way they can top it and things are really going hellwire, the government stops it and does something even more nonsense. All this, imagine destroying the buildings of your political opponents. All this persecution of political opponents. When it starts and you bring tribe into it, which is basically what this is. Like for example, look at all the killings in the north, which is the religion aspect, but they want to avoid talking about it. You know, it's so sad. So all of this situation, you know, we'll pray, and then we'll also talk about what action steps we can take, you know, to change things, because things need to be changed. You know, Nigeria is not looking good at all. That being said, that is it for, you know, today. Thank you, and God bless you.
Say this prayer audibly if you've not given your heart to Jesus Christ. Dear God, I believe in my heart that Jesus Christ, the Son of God, came, died, and was raised from the dead to save me. I confess Him, Lord, over my life, and ask You to give me Your Holy Spirit to live within me. I receive Your Spirit by faith, and thank You for I am now born again. In Jesus' name, amen. If you just prayed that prayer, congratulations, you're now a Christian. Go to alfred.vip and get resources that will help you with your work with God.